Action Comics number 2 through 13.
Is it a bird? No. Is it a plane? No. What is it? It's Superman.
Hi, welcome to Garage Geek. As many of you know, I am reading through Superman, the first superhero from the DC Finest line of graphic novels. And this covers Superman's original appearances. Now, of course, this is available in many other editions, but this is the first time that I am reading through this stuff, and I'm having a blast. Now, I'm not going to be going in depth as to plots. I will reveal plot as I have to explain some art, but that's not going to be my goal. My goal is to simply share some of the art and some of the silliness, which adds up to me some of the awesomeness of these comics. So the first comic that we're going to look at is Action Comics number 2, and it has this gorgeous cover, again by Lee Omialia. Now, this cover has good girl art and just the colors, and we've got this action scene of two people falling through the sky. They are using a parachute, but the parachute is almost invisible, and so it looks like they're hurtling to their death while two airplanes are battling it out. It's a pretty cool action scene. We come to Superman, and he's in the middle of terrorizing a gentleman that he wants information from. That ended Action Comics number 1. After terrorizing him, Superman lets him go. And then we got this great scene where Superman jumps up on top of the Washington Monument in order to get his bearings. I've never seen that Superman would need to fly up to the tallest point in order to look around, in order to go where he's needed. We have this great panel that's cut in half where two men are on the phone. One of them is the man that he just terrorized. But there's this funny piece of art where in the bottom, the man's phone looks like it's some giant snot, and that's being kind. It looks like something else going into his mouth. It's very strange. Some thugs shoot Superman, and Superman is really flippant in these comics. It's pretty funny. He says, good heavens, he can't die. So Superman says, glad I can't say the same for you. And then he ceremoniously tosses them out the window. Now, I couldn't tell if this was a first story window or if they were in a penthouse, but he throws 3 men out of a window. And then there's no explanation after that. And then he threatens the leader. He says, you see how effortlessly I crushed this bar of iron in my hand? That bar could just as easily be your neck. Now, for the last time, are you coming with me? Yeah, he's very threatening. He uses his power in a very menacing way. That is very unlike the Superman that we know. The Superman who doesn't use intimidation. In a convoluted storyline, which started last issue and is in this issue, Superman goes to a war zone, and Lois happens to be going with him. And he's on a ship, and as Superman looks out in the moonlight, the art in this is just really strange. He's very vampiric looking. And I wondered about that, and there's a panel later that I'm going to refer to. As I was editing the video, I realized that I never referred back to the panel. The panel is actually in the next issue. It reads, that night, Superman, clad in miner's garb, drops out of the skies like some occult avenging demon. What I can take from this imagery and the language is that Superman was supposed to be somewhat like Batman, a kind of avenging figure to strike terror into the hearts of his victims. We have this great, I just love the colors of these backgrounds. We've got this pink panel where Superman subjects the toughs to the severest thrashing of their lives. Like, he's just beating people up, throwing them out of windows. It's pretty hilarious. Superman joins the army of the country that he's in, and he's undercover as a soldier. Now, there's some beautifully drawn scenes, but ultimately he forced the man to go to the war zone because he wanted him to see what the munitions that he makes, how it affects real people. Initially, he was very cold and he didn't care. But now that he's in the battle, he says, this is no place for a sane man. I'll die. And then Superman, in his guise as a soldier, I see when it's your own life that's at stake, your viewpoint changes. There's a lot of sermonizing in these comics, as we will see. There's this hilarious scene where Superman is jumping across the camp. He is seen as speeding to a strange rendezvous when all he does is he bursts into the tent in costume and he takes pictures. And then I love this because when Clark bundles up the pictures and the news story, he says, where do you want it sent to? The Evening News in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I think that's significant. Number one, because I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally. And number two, that's where the creators of Superman are from, Jerome Siegel and Joe Shuster. And even though this might be printed in New York, probably, this goes to their roots. And no mention of the Daily Planet. Originally, it was the Evening News in Cleveland, Ohio. Too bad it never stayed that. Mistakenly, Lois gets into a firing squad. She is sentenced to death for spying. And of course, Superman saves her at the last minute. He jumps over the wall and stands in front of the bullets. And he says, shoot and be hanged. Superman is really funny. They're yelling, the soldiers, stop! You can't do this. It's impossible. And Superman says, thanks for letting me know, as he's jumping away. Superman, in the next scene, he takes a man and he tosses him as far as he can. And all we see is the man go flying really far away into a lump of trees. Lois is very thankful to Superman for saving her, and she asks him in the moonlight, but when will I see you again? And he responds, who knows? Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps never. The next part of this comic takes place, there's a battle in the sky, and Superman has to fight an airplane. But the pilot, the enemy pilot, is hilarious. He's flying over the camp. The camp is being mercilessly riddled by a bloodthirsty aviator. And the pilot is saying, die like crawling ants. We have no problem when Superman destroys this plane. At the end of this comic, Superman gathers the leaders of both sides of the armies and he puts them together and he says, you know what? No more people are going to die. I'm going to put you together and you're going to fight. He says, go ahead, fight, or I'll clean up on both of you myself. And it's so silly because they're like, hey, we're not angry at each other. We don't want to fight each other. And then Superman's like, then why are your armies battling? I don't know. Can you tell me? No, can you? And so they end the war that easily. Thank you, Superman. That was great. Action Comics number 3 has another great cover. It's not as nice. We got a sinking ship and we've got someone invading. I don't know. There's a little bit of racism on this cover. It's not as nice as number 2, but it certainly has a lot of action in it. And in this one, Superman is going to go up against an evil mining company who don't care about their workers. So Superman finds out about a miner who's been trapped. So he speeds there and he pretends to be a miner and he falls into the mine. In doing that, he is able to rescue a lot of the miners. In fact, there's this great panel where he carries out 5 of them at once. And he says, a trifle unceremonious, but the occasion demands it, because he had to get them out fast because of poison gas. So then he runs back in and he digs out the other miner. And the miner's in the hospital. And when Clark goes to, man, I'm telling you the whole story. So when Clark goes to interview him, the miner says, Clark says, you mean to say the owner disregarded the mine's dangerous conditions? And the miner responds, yeah, but we no quit. Got wife, kids, bills. So back we go to mine and long hours and little pay and maybe to die. So once Clark hears about this, he is going to be on a tirade against this miner. He goes to a party. There's this really lush party where the head of the mine is just a jerk. And he recommends to the whole party, hey, why don't we go party down in the mines? And we could look at what the miners have to go through and laugh at it. Superman, they capture Superman as a fake miner looking in at the party and they threaten to beat him. But then the miner, who is Superman, he takes him down in the mine and Superman demolishes the mine so that they'll be trapped in there. Clark refuses to help dig them out. And he says, I'm content to die. If you want to live, you dig. So he reverses the position on the miner and makes them dig their way out. And finally, when there's no hope, the miner, the leader of the miners, the mining company says, oh, if I only had this all to do over again, I never really knew what the men down here have to face. And then Superman says, well, that was all that he's been waiting to hear. So he waits till all of them fall asleep and then he rescues them. And from then on, the head of the mining company is turned over a new leaf and he's all about protecting his miners.